Broadcasting live from the WDC studios out of the University of Richmond. You're listening to 90.1 FM from the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. Well, let's see here. Can we get everything? There we go. Oh, excuse me. Oh, well, my gosh, what is going on over here? Golly, I show up to the station and everything's a mess. Hold on, let me see here. Is everything all right? Shout out to Authority Figure Studios. Authority Figure Studios being first in the chat over here in Instagram land. White Vegeta as well. Once again, broadcasting live from the WDCE studios out of the University of Richmond. You're listening to 90.1 FM from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Saturday morning. I want to thank everyone, of course, for joining into the show. Get this microphone out of my way. Oh my gosh, I show up to the station and everything is off. The stream is off and everything is all over the place. Good morning, Miss Lyon. Good morning, Miss Lyon. Sergeant Schultz, see you down there in the chat as well. People are wondering what I'm talking about is when I'm shouting out people in the chat. We'll get to that in a moment. Right now, I need to sit there and complain a little bit. Well, you sit there and say, well, why are you complaining, Sam? Well, I'm complaining because I show up to the station and everything's a mess. Everything is a mess. There's no feed going on. Mary Murr, you familiar with Mary Murr? Yeah, Mary Murr has to sit there and reach out to me. She's one of the program producers. Yeah, so she's one of the program producers she's a satellite producer. One of the satellite producers. Anyway, she gets in touch with me and she says, well, nothing is going on. I can't hear anything, which means that I have to go in and patch the system in, make everything. And I see that I don't know how long the stream has been off air. Usually there's a bunch of bumpers and everything. And I sit there and I turned it on and there's just bumpers and bumpers and bumpers all over the place. Yeah, well, listen, I know. Well, I had to sit there and do it. My crew's back there and they're sitting there, juggling flaming chainsaws underwater. And here I am trying to sit there and get everything straight here in the studio on the other side of the glass. And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. Listen, it had to be. Yes, well, yesterday was Friday the 13th. It was. Yes, yesterday was Friday the 13th. So maybe we can blame it on that. Talk about some bad luck, residual bad luck here in the morning with everything just being a mess. The stream's not up and running. And I'm here coming in about 15 minutes late. Well, now it's 25 minutes late. Good grief. Anyway, shout out to everybody else in the chat. Balt, I see you over there. Triple D. Beautiful Corin. Corin, yeah, beautiful Corin. I see Lone Dragon in the chat over here. Ash Bailey, Jesse, and Bruce Banner. Skeet, skeet. And, but yeah, so people want to know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm shouting out people. Good, get this damn microphone out of my way. Good grief. All right. Anyways. Skeet, skeet. See you over there, Chat Town. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to sit there and tell everybody what's going on. Yes, I am a real media puppet and I'm broadcasting live. You wonder exactly, how can you see me? Well, you can see me in a couple different ways. The first way is we have the Sam Cam up and running. We do have the Sam Cam up and running. But before we do talk about that, shout out to Jesse Lee. I see you down there. One of the things that we do here is that we're broadcasting live on the actual radio. I always sit there and go over that first. And that needs to be noted because I sit there and I see a bunch of people whining and complaining on YouTube. Yeah, about Motu, no less. And I see them whining and complaining on YouTube. And people talk about having a podcast. And not that a podcast is bad. And not that YouTube is bad either. But actually, we're on broadcast radio. Yes, it's a real radio microphone that I'm talking into. And we're broadcasting live on the airwaves. So here we are. We're broadcasting live on the airwaves. Yes, real radio. If you were actually driving down the road and you turned on your radio. I know some people may say, well, I don't listen to radio anymore. Well, shame on you. Because radio is still the number one medium for listening to music, no matter what you might think. Also, it's the number one medium to listen to news and information. And it's also one of the largest mediums for advertising and marketing. Shout out to Motu Frank. But anyway, so we are broadcasting live on the airwaves. So if you were driving around in your car and you turned on the radio, you'd be able to hear my beautiful voice. All 20 minutes late. But anyways, you'd be able to hear my beautiful voice. And of course, then you would say, well, I want to see who's behind that beautiful voice. Well, that's where the Samcam comes in. So, yes, yeah, who doesn't listen to radio anymore? It is a wonderful thing, Miss Lyon. That's exactly right. Radio is just fantastic, and it's lovely, and it's wonderful. And like I said, you can hear my beautiful voice on the airwaves. But, you might say, well, Sam, I want to see you as well. You're talking about being a real media puppet. Well, yes, I am a real media puppet. And of course, being a real media puppet, you want to see me. How do you do that? Well, we got the Sam cams up and running. One over here, and the other one over here. And so, this is called simulcasting. So this is called simulcasting. Well, it's what we do, set the standard and raise the bar. In fact, we're broadcasting live, not only on radio, so that's one medium. We have Instagram over here, at Sam Newsman on Instagram. We also, good morning, Big M. And then we also have it over here, the Samcam over here. Now, the Samcam, this live over here, is going out on 3 different channels. We have a Facebook, so you can follow me, Sam Newsman on Facebook. We're also here, Sam Newsman on YouTube, and also Sam Newsman on Twitch. Is the Twitch one working? Is it working finally? I have to figure out to see if the Twitch one is working. Also, Sam Newsman on TikTok. Last week I was sitting there telling you that one of my videos that I post, and I've been posting videos every single day, but one of them has gotten banned on TikTok already. I was talking about 6G wireless and humans being antennas. And they said it was my biggest video on Facebook. It's almost got 5,000 views. Yes, no, of course. Once again, setting the standard, raising the bar. You know any other puppet that has 5,000 views for just a little news brief? Of course you don't. But of course I do, and that's the one. That's the same. Listen, it's the same Facebook reel that is my biggest one on Facebook, over almost 5,000 views, and it's the one that's banned on TikTok. Well, listen, I know it's ridiculous. Shout out to Ben. But anyway, so I'm shouting all these people out, and I'm wanting you guys to know that because I have people here in the chat. So people are here live while I'm talking, and they're here in the chat, so I can shout out. We can have a little bit of a conversation. It's radio's interactive medium, no less. Right? And once again, here I am broadcasting live on 4 different mediums. No, 5 different mediums at once. And I'm able to have a conversation. Yes, ridiculous, Destiny. Ridiculous. But yeah, why does this video kill the radio star? Well, I tell you, here I am. I'm a real media puppet on the radio and also broadcasting on video. And like I said, you can interact with us by getting in the chat. That's at Sam Newsman on Instagram, at Sam Newsman on Twitter, at Sam Newsman on TikTok, Sam Newsman on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So, Twitter. Yes, well, that's right. Twitter, I've always been more of a fan of Twitter than Instagram. And people are always like, well, I like Instagram more. Well, that's because you don't know how to play around with Twitter. And so, well, I'm never going to tweet. I'm never going to send out a tweet. Well, that just shows exactly where you are and where you're stuck because Twitter is where all the news happens. In fact, I was on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for years. Since about 2015. Since I've been on Twitter. How about you? So here it is. Yes, the best puppet on radio. Thank you, beautiful. Corin. Thank you, Corin. I appreciate that. Would this thing get out of my way? You got these 2. I got my Republican and Democrat skeletons over here on the microphone. Yeah, what are you guys doing? You guys are all up in my face. No, listen, I'll get to the news in a moment, guys. I will. Will you guys just stop poking me with the microphone on my hat? It's getting on my nerves. Anyway, so you can see me here. Like I said, I'm broadcasting on Instagram, broadcasting Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Anyway, Twitter. Yes, Twitter. See what you guys do? You guys are messing me up. So it's all about the fact that I'm on Twitter. And of course, now, of course, if you follow me on Twitter, at Sam Newsman on Twitter, yes, I'm official now. I have a blue check mark. And the question is that how many other real media puppets have check marks? No, listen, I know that you hear about, you see me, well, a lot of the media people now, and of course the news publications, they have a yellow check mark. A yellow check mark for yellow journalism. A little bit of a troll there from old Elon. But yes, here I am, a real media puppet. I know that you see human puppets everywhere, and they have check marks. People call them puppets. I should be upset and offended because people are calling humans puppets, and I should be upset about that. And hell, I can't even pick the puppet pronoun. That's not an option for me. And I feel slighted by that. I should be offended, no less. Right? What's up, Mudscuffer? And see, curse of Fenir. Anyway, so here we are, all over the place. The king of all media puppets, says Ben Bonello. The king, a real media puppet doing this on Saturday morning. Shout out to Delmas as well. Like, see, I'm getting you guys as you're coming in, and like I said, we're broadcasting here on Instagram. We're also broadcasting over here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and of course on WDCE 90.1 FM. So it's been an interesting week, has it not? Of course, like I said, if you've been following me on any of my social channels, Skydro Walker, shout out to Skydro Walker. If you know with Skydro Walker, follow Skydro Walker on Instagram. And if you go to extremesets.com, you can save 15% when you use the code Skydro. That's SKYDRO at extremesets.com. Yeah, wake and bake picture take. Right? Wake and bake picture take. That happens after the show. Right around noon or so. Wake and bake picture take with Skydro Walker. Follow him at Skydro Walker on Instagram. Mudscuffer, what happened in Roswell? Well, it's classified. But I can tell you there was no little green men and there was no little gray men. So that's all I'm going to say about that right now. But it has been an interesting news week. Hold on, let me grab the newspaper over here and grab the paper here. Of course, here I do have the newspaper, bringing in every single morning. And this is, of course, the Richmond Times-Dispatch. The news must be heard. That's right, the news must be heard. But if you are having issues with the Instagram feed, I know sometimes Instagram gets wonky. It fades in and out. And you can always come back over here to the YouTube feed, which seems to be a little bit more stable. But as far as news goes, oh man, news. Oh, the news. And people would say, well, Sam, I don't want to hear about the news. I'm a real media puppet. What do you think I'm doing? Of course, I'm sitting there going to talk about the news. I'm a real media puppet. People think that I'm just going to sit up here and just, talk about unicorns. Butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. It's in a book. I'm reading the newspaper. Things are going sideways. Take a look. Any periodical. We're reading the newspaper. Anyway, so like I said, the newspaper, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Now I'm pulling this from yesterday. Yesterday's news. Yesterday's news was Sam Newsman. And, maybe I could do that. People say, oh, well, it's old news now. No, it's not old news. Special counsel to probe Biden's papers. Probe Biden's papers. Are the papers okay with being probed? Yeah. Well, hopefully they grab the soap before they're getting probed. Anyways, one-time U.S. attorney will start leading the investigation soon. Attorney General Merrick Garland on Thursday appointed a special counsel to investigate the presence of classified documents found at President Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware, and at an unsecured office in Washington dating from his time as vice president. Well, isn't that something? Now, weren't we all supposed to be mad about Orange 45 and him having a bunch of papers at Mar-a-Lago? And here we have old Vice President, old Uncle Joe over here having a bunch of papers in his garage. Hey, but have no fear, it was locked in his garage, next to his Corvette. No, that's what he said. He said they were safe. They were locked in his garage by his Corvette. Now, here's what's really interesting. Now, this is the same house that the White House wouldn't allow people to know who was coming in and out of the residence. You remember that? No, you don't. Oh, well, now you do. Well, that's very interesting to know about. Because another reason is that this is the same exact address that is on Hunter Biden's license. Then you sit there and you look, and then I think that the actual house is in Hunter Biden's name. If I'm mistaken on that, the reality is that still it's a residence of Hunter Biden. Of course, we don't know. We have no idea of who is coming in and out of that house. But have no fear. The garage was locked, and so were all those classified papers. Now, you notice only the president can sit there and declassify material. The vice president can't do that, and these papers that were found specifically in an unsecured office, it was a university. Was it a university? I think it was a university office. Anyways, well, all that matters is that they found classified, and these date back from when he was vice president. So he's not supposed to have these. Let's see here. Here we go. Skydro coming in with the hot news right here. The Clinton emails are back in the news as well. U.S. invading Iraq was actually a mission to find the Nephilim tombs. Whoa! Headline, the Nephilim tomb. You familiar with the Nephilim too, right? There's the giants with the red hair. Well, the Smithsonian, back in the early 1900s when they found a bunch of fossils. They found a bunch of fossils and also Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. And they classified everything, shut it all down. And now there's soldiers, military mercs and everything by some of those entrances that house all of those artifacts that they weren't able to take out of the Grand Canyon. And listen, this is not conspiracy stuff. This is actually stuff that happened. I'm not making this up. And you might sit there and think, oh, well, Sam's just talking out of his puppet behind. No, I'm not. There's a hand up that. But, well, listen, okay, so the interesting thing about all of this is that things are going crazy right now. And usually the question that people ask is, why is this all happening? Well, there's always a story behind the story. And the real story right now is the fact that something's going on behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about. And of course, Uncle Joe was supposed to be announcing the fact that he was going to run for office. He was supposed to run for office. Remember all that talk about him saying, well, after Christmas, old Uncle Joe is going to make a decision of whether or not he's going to run for office. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. But don't worry, the country is safe as all of those classified documents. Why? Well, because they're locked in his shed. Next to his shed. Locked in his garage, excuse me. We don't want to sit there and offend all the sheds and garages. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, Big Garage will be after me, and Big Shed will be after me for misinformation. Because I called a shed a garage instead of a garage a shed. Oh, wait a minute. I meant to call a shed a garage. That's what I mean. Anyway, so they were safe, though. They were safe because they were in a garage. A locked garage next to his Corvette. In a house that also was owned by Hunter Biden. Anyways. Jesse said, hey, Sam, did you hear about the new B-21 bomber they're working on? Sheds are known to have good lawyers. Speaking of lawyers, did you see about the lawyer that's going to be an AI robot? That was on the news as well. No, it was the first time that someone in the court system was going to be represented by an AI robot. Well, listen, that's when it comes to AI robots, if there's anything that's going to be putting lawyers out of business, is ChatGPT. Familiar with ChatGPT? Listen, that's what I made the post about last night. You can go to ChatGPT, just type in chatbot in Google. It'll come up, ChatGPT. And what you can do is you can ask that thing any legal question, and you don't have to pay $600 for a lawyer. You just have to type it in ChatGPT and you get the answer. Now, of course, some people would say, well, hold on, wait a minute. You're going to put lawyers out of business. Well, listen, I'd rather have a robot representing me in court than a blood-sucking human vampire lawyer, right? Good grief. All right, anyway, so what time is it? It's 9:41. Listen, I know we got started and I've been all flustered the whole time. But I'm waiting for Deep Cut Dave. Deep Cut Dave should be calling in any minute. And you sit there and say, well, why would Deep Cut Dave call? Well, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know that Deep Cut Dave is our cartoon savant, our retro cartoon and deep cut cartoon savant. And the thing about Deep Cut Dave is that he comes in with the hot fire every single week, shoots me an email, usually after the show or during the show, and talking about certain cartoon themes that he wants me to play here in this first hour. You say, what do you mean about cartoon themes? Well, remember, if you are listening to the Simple Radio app, download the Simple Radio app, search WDCE, and you can listen to the show live. Also, go to WDCE.org if you can't download the app, and you can listen to the stream live as the stream is going. And we say, well, why would I want to do that? Well, that's because that's where you're going to hear the cartoon themes. I can't play the cartoon themes here on the interwebs and over here on Instagram. No, I'd get flagged and people would say, oh my gosh, copyright strike. Can't do that. So download the Simple Radio app, search WDCE, and you'll be able to listen to the show live and hear the cartoon themes. I think I have Dave coming in here right now. Dave, are you there?
Barely, but I'm here.
Listen, you are there. How was your Friday the 13th? Were you chased by anybody, strange individuals with hockey masks?
No, saw a dude with a potato sack on his head. Does that count?
No, well, I think that does count. That does count. And the question is did he come to you in your nightmares, and did he have a claw in his hand?
I think we're getting our horror icons confused.
Yeah, well, they're all there. I'm confused about all of them. I don't watch horror that often. I'll have nightmares. And the next thing you know, I'll have little puppets running around with knives and chainsaws in my dreams. And I tell you what, just reading the news is nightmare enough. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, man, this has been a week. It's like, things are bad when you tell your boss, hey, I may need to take some time off to go identify a body.
Yeah, absolutely. That's rough. Well, but that's in the spirit of Friday the 13th, though, I mean, who would have it any other way?
I guess. I'd rather not have it this way, if being totally honest.
Well, of course not. But, it's one of those Friday the 13th things. And hopefully everything was able to be identified as need be. Now, speaking of identified, last week I played Super Friends. And you sent me an email back and you said, hey, play this Super Friends. And I said, I did play Super Friends. And he said, no. I need to correct the record. And I said, oh, okay. And, so here's one of these opportunities where me, the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell, I didn't make a mistake. I did play Super Friends, but there was some semantics going on with Super Friends. And I do have the link correct now. And the Super Friends cartoon that we're discussing is Super Friends from 1980. You sent me an email and you said, well, this is the reason why we need to play this one. And so I'm going to be playing Super Friends here first in this little set that you've given me. So what's the difference between the Super Friends that I played last week and the Super Friends cartoon that I'm going to be playing this week?
Well, last week, that was the world's greatest Super Friends. That was from 1979 to 1980.
Okay, and so the other Super Friends cartoon, what's that? What's the difference with this, and how is this different from what I played?
Well, starting in the 1980, they changed it again. It went from World's Greatest Super Friends to just Super Friends.
Okay, so they weren't the world's greatest anymore? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, apparently not. But they also introduced a new character, El Dorado.
Is he from the City of Gold?
They never said.
They never said, but his name is El Dorado, but we don't know. So he's from, okay, so this is one of those wrestling. I know you're a wrestling guy. So El Dorado is from Parts Unknown, right? Right. Even though there's a place called El Dorado. So can you talk to me about who this El Dorado character is and let our listeners know what's going on with El Dorado?
Time, starting in the mid-set with Challenge of the Super Friends, Hanna-Barbera they were adding original characters to the lineup.
So he's an original. So this is not one of those DC characters like Batman or Superman, Aquaman. This is somebody completely different?
Yes. Like I said, it was created by Hanna-Barbera, but he was later brought into the DC universe proper.
Okay, so he did eventually show up in the comics, but he was that's very interesting. He was an actual Hanna-Barbera character, similar, I guess, to Yogi Bear, right?
Yeah. Well, they started. They started like Wendy and Marvin and Wonder Dog.
Okay.
Then they added the Wonder Twins, Zan and Jaina.
And they have any more?
Apache Chief, Samurai. There was also Black Vulcan, which was basically an attempt to cheat Tony Isabella out of royalties.
Well, what was going on with that? That sounds like some information.
Well, yeah. Well, see, Tony Isabella helped develop the character Black Lightning.
Okay.
Recently star of his own show on the CW. Well, thing is, as he was developing the character, Tony thought he was being smart. He thought, well, I want the rights. So if you do anything with this guy, I would get a percentage of royalties. Okay. So they negotiate and they say, okay, well, Tony, that's fair. If we do anything with Black Lightning, you'll get a royalty. Okay. So they do the Super Friends show. And it's like, oh, no, that's Black Vulcan. That's totally different.
So they were.
So we don't owe you anything.
Okay. I see what they did there. Well, that's very interesting.
But so with the 1980 Super Friends, they decided to introduce another new character, El Dorado, who had the amazing power of whatever the script needed at the time.
Oh, well, now that's convenient. So, can you give us some examples about what his superpowers were at any given time?
Well, let's see here. He could fly. He had super strength. His main thing was his cape, which could make him invisible or make him two-dimensional, so he could slide under a door.
Yeah, well, that's always very helpful.
I think he could shoot lasers out of his eyes too, but it's been a while since I've seen the show.
Oh man, you're right. Anything that needed to happen, he'd be able to do it.
Yeah, because when you think, El Dorado, you think guy that can turn two-dimensional and slide under a door.
I mean, I listen, if I had to sit there and choose between that and flight, I'm definitely going to have to use the cape that's going to slide me under a door. Forget all that flying nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Well, another thing that you brought up in the email was Goldie Gold and Action Jack. What's that all about?
Well, that was a show by Ruby Spears, developed by Steve Gerber.
Okay, and Steve Gerber being?
Well, Howard the Duck.
Ah, yes, Howard the Duck.
Yeah, he developed that. He even had some character designs from Jack Kirby.
I'm familiar with Jack Kirby.
Yes. Ran for 13 episodes, 1981. Honestly, just kind of a ripoff on Richie Rich. Goldie Gold is this disgustingly rich woman. And Action Jack is a reporter that works for one of her many, many, many newspapers. And together they just get involved in hijinks.
What do you mean by hijinks? That's a loaded term.
Well, like they're going to investigate, they're going on a story in Egypt and, oh, there's a mummy, or, there's, like, I remember, it seems like they only ever ran one episode on Cartoon Network back in the day. It's like they're getting chased by sky hijackers, so Goldie directs them to her sky mansion. Yes, it's a giant mansion, airborne in the sky. It's like she just has that flying around just in case she ever needs it.
Well, that sounds convenient.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay. And she has like solid gold everything. It's like, I don't think you don't have to have gold ice cream. That doesn't sound healthy.
No, gold ice cream definitely does not sound healthy. Now, you brought up Richie Rich. The third thing that I have here is the Pac-Man / Little Rascal / Richie Rich show. What are you familiar with that?
Well, yeah, that was one of those block programs.
Okay, so so there's 3 different programs during, I guess, the half-hour time frame.
Actually, I think it was more like an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. Nobody wants to.
30 minutes per slot.
Oh, okay. So they did all 3 of them. So the reason why I bring that up is because I was pulling up the theme song. And it's only the theme song's a minute long, but now you're telling me that the whole show is an hour and a half. That seems like.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have a Pac-Man segment, a Little Rascals, and Richie Rich.
Gotcha. So Pac-Man had his own cartoon. So didn't they have a Pac-Man kids show as well?
Yeah, that's where it was. They would spin this off into its own thing eventually.
Oh, okay. Well, the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your deepest cut of the week. Your deep cut of the week. So of course we go through some of these cartoons at first, but the one that you really wanted to talk about was this show called Torchy the Battery Boy, which seems to have, of course, a show after my own heart. Puppets. It seems to be some kind of puppets in here. So talk to the audience real quickly before we let you go about Torchy the Battery Boy. It looks like it's from 1960. What's going on with this?
Actually, 1959 to 1961.
Okay, so 1959 to 1961. Torchy the Battery Boy. What's up with this?
Well, in the words of Abraham Simpson, that doll's evil. Evil, I told you.
So is an evil puppet?
Very well. In context of the show, maybe. But the show was the second ever show made by Gary Anderson.
Gary Anderson being?
Mind behind, he and his wife Sylvia did the show Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, and the Mysterions.
Okay, and so what is this whole Torchy the Battery Boy about?
Well, it's kind of a riff on Pinocchio. Basically, this lonely old toy maker decides he's going to build himself a son. The doll comes alive in some hideous fashion. It is tortured by neighborhood children, launched up into the sky, where it lands in Topsy-Turvy Land.
Well, that sounds like a great place to vacation. Where is that located?
It's above the clouds. And this might be of interest to Lord Blanket. Basically, Topsy-Turvy Land is populated by all your old toys.
Whoa, well, how about that? Lord Blanket's a myth, by the way.
Yeah. Thing is, all your old toys are up there, and they remember what you did.
Oh, well, isn't that something? Oh, my God.
Yeah, so Torchy would, the only episodes I've seen, I don't know if there were other plots, but Torchy comes back down to Earth, where he routinely kidnaps children, drags them to Topsy-Turvy Land, and they are tortured by their old toys.
Oh, well, it sounds just like my buddy Flex the Ghost that calls in every now and then. And I guess this is a precursor to Epstein Island. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Zing, zing, zing. So these toys are upset. It's like, I guess, if Michelangelo lost one of his nunchucks, the Torchy the Battery Boy would come grab you, take you up to Topsy-Turvy Land, and your playmates Michelangelo would fuss at you and kick you in the teeth for losing his nunchuck, and then he was nunchuckless.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting.
Well, the distressing thing about it, Torchy's eyes, the white part of the eye?
Right.
Yeah, well, Torchy's are black, and the colored part are white. So he has this 2 pearls and an infinite sea of infinity.
Oh, so you say
he's always looking at you, no matter where you are in the room.
So okay, so it's like, the kind of those dead shark eyes like Funko Pops have.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you ever get a Funko Pop and you look at it, it's got those dead shark eyes. It's like it creeps you out. Can't stand the fun. Geez, good grief.
I know. Like I said, I've only seen a handful of episodes because, man, Torchy is looking directly at me. It's like, no. This is my sleep paralysis demon tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like, listen, I'll take the guy in the hockey mask and the potato sack and the guy with the claws on his fingers and the guy with the skin on his face and the chainsaw over this little puppet any day.
Yes.
Well, Dave, listen, I want to thank you for calling into the show, giving us a whole rundown of everything. Are you going to be back next week? I know sometimes you work on the weekends.
Unless Torchy drags me to Topsy-Turvy Land, I should be back next week.
Well, don't lose any of your toys' accessories, and that won't happen, okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, you have a great weekend, Dave, and thanks for calling in.
You too.
All right. So that was Deep Cut Dave with a couple of deep cut cartoons. And we're going to get here to the cartoons in just a second. The Super Friends, Goldie Gold, Action Jack, the Pac-Man, Little Rascals, the Richie Rich Show, and Torchy the Battery Boy. Now, how can you hear all of these cartoon themes? Download the Simple Radio app or go to WDCE.org. But if you download the Simple Radio app, search WDCE, and you'll be able to listen to these cartoon themes that Dave just mentioned live on the app. Now, like I said, we're going to shut down the video feeds here in just a moment, but you can also follow me at Sam Newsman on Instagram, at Sam Newsman here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, also on TikTok, and officially with a blue check mark on Twitter as at Sam Newsman all over the place. Just look for me. Just type in Sam Newsman, at Sam Newsman on all your social media channels. And like I said, we'll be back here once again. We're broadcasting live, WDCE 90.1 FM out of the University of Richmond, 804-289-UR90. 804-289-8790. Phone lines will be open up on the other side of the break here, on the other side of the cartoon break. You'll be able to call in and chat with me directly, of course, and be a part of the only radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real puppet, from the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Saturday Morning.